After 20 years of struggle, she discovered a life-changing secret when he knocked on her door. The sound of children laughing and the distant sizzle of frying food danced through the air as Sarah wiped her brow. Cedar Springs was quieter than she'd liked to admit, its charm wearing thin under the burdens of economic hardship. She juggled 3 part-time jobs, each shift like a thread woven tightly around her heart, binding her to a life solely dedicated to her 2 kids, Lily and Ethan. Yet, underneath the routine of breakfast scrambles and school runs, anxiety lurked like an unwanted guest. Neighbors' whispers twisted through the streets like weeds, every judgment stinging like ice. It always came back to her father, the man who chose to leave and etch sadness into her heart. Was that what they saw? A failure? Just another testament to the brokenness spiraling through families like hers? Fatigue enveloped her, heavy as the dusk settling over her porch, when a knock interrupted the cycle of her weary thoughts. "Hey there." Tom, a retired veteran with eyes that held stories, stood at her door, hope in his smile. "I'd love to help organize a fundraiser for at-risk youth here in Cedar Springs. What do you think?" His words ignited a flicker of something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. They began to brainstorm ideas together, laughter punctuating their conversation, threading their lives into an unexpected partnership. But between the smiles and shared aspirations, Sarah's past loomed in shadows. "Talking about your father," Tom murmured one evening, his tone gentle like soft rain. "It must have been tough." She nodded, the walls of her heart tightening. A flood of memories rushed back: abandonment, confusion, and a promise to never let her kids feel the same sting. Tom's kindness reflected her own struggles back at her, making her confront the pain she had buried deep. Sarah faced her neighbors at the fundraiser, battling the glares and the conversations that rippled like waves. The whispers were louder now. Why doesn't she just make better choices? 3 jobs and still can't provide? But just as negativity threatened to drown her, she felt a surge of defiance. Taking a deep breath, she stepped up to the podium, her heart pounding. "I stand here as a single mother, struggling but never broken. My children are my world. I fight for them every day." She spoke from her heart, sharing the sacrifices behind each teetering moment, the love that anchored her in times of doubt. For once she didn't just see judgment. She felt flickers of connection, murmurs laced with understanding. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Just when it seemed they had turned a corner, Tom's phone rang. His face transformed, the warmth replaced by worry that crept in like a shadow. What lay behind that call? Secrets he hadn't shared yet? They stood on the edge of something profound, an unlikely duo rising against fierce tides of judgment. "Sarah, there is something I need to tell you." The silence wrapped around them, thick with unspoken truths, as they faced the chaos of their intertwined fates. Would they stand strong together? Or would their pasts, laden with pain, pull them apart? The tension hung between them like a fragile thread, shimmering with the weight of unasked questions. Sarah felt her breath catch in her throat. Tom, usually so composed, seemed to struggle with something heavy in his heart. She tried to decipher his expression, but the storm behind his eyes left her only with fear. "What is it?" she managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. He took a step forward, the air around them thickening. "I've been trying to shield you from my past. It's complicated, Sarah. You deserve honesty." His fingers ran through his hair, a nervous gesture that only amplified the gravity of the moment. "I lost my son. He was taken too soon. I've been living with that for years." The words shocked her. A father's grief, she recognized, carried a weight so similar to her own. It was a truth she had never anticipated hearing from the man who had brought so much light into her dark days. "I'm so sorry, Tom. I had no idea." His gaze dropped, shadowed by memories too painful to fully embrace. "I've wanted to help kids like him. That's why I'm here, why I want to make a difference. But I have to do it right." He paused, eyes meeting hers with a desperate earnestness. "And I can't lead this alone anymore. It's been tearing me apart." A flicker of understanding ignited in Sarah. She knew what it felt like to carry burdens, to want to mend the cracks left by painful pasts. "You're not alone, Tom. We can do this together. You didn't have to shoulder this by yourself." As the words fell from her lips, a small flicker of hope sparked from the heartache they shared. They began brainstorming again, feeling the weight lift off their shoulders with each idea they exchanged. It was almost as if, together, they could weave a tapestry of resilience, something to honor his son, and to ensure that children in Cedar Springs had a chance to feel hope just like her kids did. "Thank you, Sarah," Tom said, his eyes shining with newfound strength. "I didn't realize how much I needed to let this out." Just then, the soft sound of Lily's giggles floated through the door. Sarah grinned, remembering her daughter's spark and spirit. "Let us channel that energy into this," she suggested. "We can make it bigger than we thought." As they connected deeper through their shared dreams, the lines of their lives began to blur. Time, once a ticking clock of burdens, now felt like an open road, full of possibilities. But just as they started to define their path, Tom's phone rang again, a sharp contrast to their moment of hope. "Work, I have to take this," he said, stepping aside, leaving Sarah with feelings both swollen and raw. Who was he beneath the surface? Another layer of his life she didn't know about, waiting to unravel. Sarah glanced out the window, watching her kids play, their laughter ringing like bells in the quiet evening. She wanted to protect them, to shield them from the world's harshness. But did she really know how? A sudden thought struck her. What if everything she thought defined their lives could be turned upside down? When Tom returned, his face was a mix of relief and concern. "Let us meet again tomorrow. I want to share more about why I'm here, and what it means for us all." They locked eyes, the promise of understanding worth fighting for, and as they stepped outside into the fading light, a new question hung between them, heavier than before. What would they uncover about each other? And how much of their pasts would they have to confront to truly move forward? The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm yet melancholic glow as Sarah watched Tom walk away. The soft murmur of laughter from her children faded, replaced by the weight of the unspoken. Each step he took felt like a step deeper into shadows she couldn't quite grasp. She found herself standing still, her heart racing with a mixture of hope and dread. Could their shared pain really transform into something meaningful? The thought was exhilarating. Lily bounded toward her, cheeks flushed from play. "Mommy, can we have ice cream?" The youthful exuberance washed over Sarah like a soothing balm, reminding her that innocence still thrived amidst chaos. "Of course, sweet pea," Sarah replied, kneeling to meet her daughter's glowing smile. But as she pulled Lil closer, her mind wandered back to Tom. The questions were swirling again. Who was he? What had driven him to Cedar Springs with a heart so heavy? And how could they possibly contribute to healing those still caught in their wounds? The next morning, Sarah brewed coffee, her mind racing. Thoughts of Tom muscled their way into her routine, bringing with them the faintest hope that maybe, just maybe, she could make a difference. Not just for her kids, but for other children searching for solace in sorrow. As she stepped into her old station wagon, an unexpected excitement fluttered in her chest. She arrived at the community center early, looking out at the sunlit garden where laughter and shadows seemed to dance together in harmony. She could envision vibrant murals and smiling faces, a safe haven where kids could find joy again. Tom arrived a few minutes later, the lines on his face still shadowed but his stance more determined. "Thanks for coming," he said, his voice steady. "Of course. I've been thinking a lot about what we can do," Sarah replied, her heart beating faster at the prospect of this collaboration. They settled at a small table, surrounded by posters and colorful papers. As they brainstormed, ideas flowed freely. Arts programs, mentorship opportunities, and community events all sprouted from their conversation like seedlings finding life from rich soil. "This could seriously change things for kids here," Sarah said, the thrill of possibility bubbling through her. "We could make it a safe place for them," Tom nodded, a spark igniting in his eyes as he leaned closer. "Yes, just imagine. A place where they can process grief, emotions, everything. We could hold workshops, invite professionals, give them the tools they need." Sarah felt a chill race through her arms, not from fear but from the sheer exhilaration of their vision taking shape. "What if we honored your son in these programs? It could be a way for everyone to realize they're not alone." Tom's expression softened. "That is a beautiful idea, Sarah. I've thought about doing something in his memory, but I never knew how until now. As the sun climbed higher, brightening the world around them, Sarah could feel the burdens lighten. They were vulnerable, scared even. But somehow in this togetherness, there was a glimmer of something that felt profoundly right. Just then, a commotion outside pulled their attention. A group of kids played a raucous game of tag nearby, laughter ringing out like music. That contagious joy filled the air, and Sarah felt a sudden constriction in her throat, urging her to act. Tom, what if we set a date? We can get the kids involved right away. Yes, let us throw an event to gather support. He hesitated briefly before nodding slowly, his face lighting up with renewed determination. Let us do it. But we'll need to speak with the community first. I want them to feel included. The sun warmed their faces as they began to plan, excitement mingling with anxiety. As they formulated a strategy, Sarah felt a rush of confidence. This wasn't just about the children, it was about reclaiming lost hopes and transforming pain into purpose. Yet, with every eager plan, a lingering thought emerged. What would be the first step they would take to truly open up about everything? With that question hanging in the air. Between them, Sarah's heart raced with both ambition and fear. The stakes were higher now, and the truth of what they were uncovering together was just beginning to reveal itself. Would they have the strength to face the past as they moved toward a brighter future? The community center buzzed with energy as Sarah and Tom worked diligently to sort through their ideas. Colored papers and sticky notes spread across their small table, resembling a chaotic artist's palette, vibrant and full of potential. Each idea felt like a brushstroke in a larger picture they were creating together, a picture of hope. Okay, let us make a list of people we need to talk to, Sarah suggested, jotting names down as Tom leaned in, absorbing her enthusiasm. What about the school? They might have resources or even volunteers. His eyes lit up with possibility. Great idea. And the local businesses could help too. Maybe they can sponsor some activities, Sarah added, her spirit buoyed by his engagement. Their brainstorm had shifted from a mere idea to tangible steps, each moment fueling her hope as they continued their planning. Sarah lost track of time. Laughter from the kids outside echoed in her ears, a reminder of why they were doing this. Images of little faces from the neighborhood flooded her mind. She could already picture them, bright-eyed and eager, diving into art with paint-splattered hands and messy hair. The thought alone felt like a rush of sunshine breaking through the clouds. Hey, what do you think about adding a mural painting day? Tom's voice snapped her back to the now. The kids could express their feelings on a wall, and we'd end up with something beautiful. It could serve as a testament to their stories. A tight knot twisted in Sarah's stomach as the idea settled. That could be powerful but also scary, right? To let them share their stories? Exactly, Tom agreed. But it's important. They need a space to say these things. It's how healing begins. Sarah nodded slowly, feeling the weight of his words. She thought of her own childhood, a time when untold stories roamed unchecked. It wasn't until her mother had encouraged her to express herself that she began to understand the art of letting pain exist alongside joy. As they wrapped up their meeting, Tom looked at her with a tender expression. I know this is daunting, but you have a gift for bringing people together. I can feel it. It's in how you've spoken about these kids. Thanks, she replied, feeling a warmth rise in her cheeks. But I think we all have gifts. It's about knowing how to use them. A silence enveloped them, the air thick with unspoken emotions. Both were acutely aware that they were standing on the edge of something monumental, not just for themselves, but for their community. Days turned into weeks as they rolled out their plans. The air hummed with anticipation every time posters went up around town. Word of their event spread as excitement and skepticism intertwined among residents. Some voiced concern, remembering losses that lingered too heavily, while others rallied around the notion of healing. On the day of the event, the sun shone bright, basking everything in a hopeful glow. Kids splashed colors against the wall, some hesitating at first but then diving in wholeheartedly. Laughter and stories of loss began to weave together, creating a tapestry of solidarity. As Tom stepped back to watch, he noticed Sarah in the midst of it all, a smile breaking through her earlier anxieties. She was a beacon of light amongst the children, encouraging and connecting. But then, as if the universe was scripting one of life's poignant moments, a family wandered in. Their expressions were somber, shadows dancing across their faces as they took in the colors being splashed onto the canvas. Sarah instinctively felt their heaviness, her heart beating fiercely. "Tom," she whispered, sensing the tension in the air. As the family approached, Sarah felt the lingering uncertainty of what was about to unfold. Did they know someone? Were they there to share a story? The moment felt like a delicate balance, one that could tip into either joy or sorrow. With a thickening throat, Sarah realized this would be a turning point. Would they find the courage to embrace this moment together or retreat back into their own fears? The answers loomed ahead, but they remained just out of reach. The air hung heavy as the family stepped closer, each footfall echoing louder than the last. Sarah's heart raced, a mixture of dread and hope swirling together. The warmth of the sun that had bathed the day in golden light now felt stark against the chill creeping into her bones. "Is everything okay?" Tom asked softly, leaning closer to Sarah, his voice barely above a whisper. She could barely bring herself to respond, her eyes locked on the family. The mother, a woman with weary eyes and a tender expression, stepped forward, her lips moving silently, as if searching for the right words in a sea of emotions. Young children clutched her side, their hands intertwining, sensing the gravity of the moment. "Excuse me," the woman finally said, her voice quivering like a leaf in the wind. We heard there was some sort of art event today?" "Yeah, it's all about expressing stories through art," Sarah said, her voice cracking just a bit. "It's a way for the kids to share, to heal." The woman's gaze softened as understanding mingled with pain. "We lost our son last year," she whispered, her voice breaking. "He loved art. We thought maybe he would be here." A wave of sorrow swept over Sarah, but she quickly steadied herself. She knew that this moment wasn't just about fear. It was about connection. "I'm so sorry for your loss," she managed, her voice trembling with empathy. "We'd love for you to remember and celebrate him here. Would you like to help paint?" The woman's eyes glimmered with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. "But I don't know if I can. Whatever you feel. You're welcome to share it," Tom chimed in, his gentleness wrapping around them like a warm blanket. "This space is for everyone, especially for those who've lost. You can paint your son's favorite color, draw what he loved, or even just leave a handprint. It's whatever you need." Moments passed like slow-moving clouds. Finally, the mother's face transformed, settling into a quiet resolve. "Okay," she said, nodding slowly. "He wanted us to do something beautiful." As she stepped closer to the mural wall, a sense of unity washed over Sarah. The children held their mother's hand tightly, drawing strength from her. This was not just art. It was a bridge connecting pain and hope. Tom exchanged a glance with Sarah, silently agreeing on the uncharted depth of this moment. They began to gather paints, setting up a small palette for the grieving family. Sarah's heart swelled as she watched the children slowly reach for colors, their fingers trembling with both excitement and that all-too-familiar trepidation. The laughter of other children filled the air alongside quiet tears. It was a mosaic of loss and love, where pain could be transformed into something beautiful. As brushes hit the wall, no longer a blank canvas but now a vibrant explosion of playful colors and heartfelt memories, palpable energy shifted within the crowd. Onlookers began to realize the significance. This was a place for stories that mattered. Suddenly, one of the children turned towards the mural, his voice ringing out loud and clear. "Can we all paint together?" A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, voices urging others to join, to add their colors, their words of remembrance. Sarah smiled wide, feeling the power of connection flowing freely. It was more than healing, it was a celebration of shared existence, a sanctuary of understanding. But in the midst of the joy, Sarah felt a knot in her stomach again. This was just the beginning. What would happen after today? Would the community continue to come together? As the family painted, the weight of that uncertainty draped over her like a heavy blanket. There were still stories left to tell, wounds to heal. There would be more challenges ahead, and she wasn't sure how they would face them. But for now they were alive in this moment, piecing together a tapestry of shared hope. As the sun started to dip, casting a golden glow over the mural, Sarah's thoughts lingered on that uncertainty. Would their fragile beginnings sustain the weight of life itself? And just then, a local journalist approached, camera in hand, a spark of curiosity behind his eyes. Sarah's heart raced again. Did they have the courage to share their story with the world? That question hung above them like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. The journalist took a confident step forward, his camera poised at the ready. He seemed drawn to the vibrant mural, the colors bursting with stories waiting to be told. "Excuse me," he said with a friendly smile. "Can I talk to you both about what's happening here?" Sarah felt an immediate rush of anxiety. She hadn't prepared for this moment. Would they really want to put their intimate pain out there for the world to see? She glanced at Tom, who had risen to meet the journalist's energy, and saw the resolve in his eyes. He believed this was important. "Sure," Tom replied, his voice steady. "We're glad you're here." The journalist motioned for them to step aside. "What inspired you to create this space?" Sarah took a deep breath, her thoughts swirling like the paint on the wall behind her. "It's about healing," she managed to say. "It's about telling stories, remembering those we've lost." His eyes flickered with interest as he framed Sarah's words with his camera lens. "Can you tell me about your own story?" For a moment Sarah hesitated. She had always been more comfortable being the supporter, the caretaker, rather than the one sharing. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the laughter and chatter of children around them. Tom stepped in, adding gently, "It's personal to all of us here. We've all felt the weight of loss in different ways." The journalist nodded, deeply engaged. "That's what makes it so powerful. Moments like these create connections." Just as Sarah began to find her voice, the gentleness of the moment shifted. A woman from the crowd approached, her face drawn tight with worry. "Excuse me, I thought I'd come support," she said, glancing at the mural. "But what if my story is too much? What if it weighs everyone down?" The air shifted again, thick with questions and uncertainty. Sarah felt her chest tighten as she saw her own fears reflected in this newcomer. Would sharing their stories help or hurt? Would it bring healing? Or would it open old wounds? "Sometimes letting it out is the first step to healing," Sarah said softly, her voice firm now. "You don't have to be afraid. This space is for every feeling you're carrying." The woman's expression softened, and with a tentative smile, she joined the family at the mural. There was a visible release, as if Sarah's words had unlocked something within her. Soon, more people from the crowd approached, hesitating at first but gradually stepping forward, encouraged by a sense of safety and community. As more hands dipped into paint, the mural transformed, each stroke breathing life into their grief and memories. Bright colors danced together, narratives merging into one luscious story. The journalist snapped photos, capturing every emotion, the smiles, the tears, the glances of understanding between strangers. "This is incredible," he said, glancing up at the mural and then back at Sarah and Tom. "You're creating something really special here." But as the celebration continued, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of dread brewing in her gut. What would the public reaction be when the story unveiled? Would they be met with empathy or skepticism? "Type up the press release," she heard the journalist say into his phone. "This will be big." Her heart raced again, fear mingling with hope. Maybe this was the chance they needed to build a community, to serve as a beacon for others who had suffered alone. But amid the blossoming sense of purpose and burgeoning art, another thought nagged at her. What if they weren't ready for the attention? What if the weight of expectation became too much? And just as Sarah was wrestling with that thought, the initial family stepped forward. The mother took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice strong yet tender. "Can we share our son's story here too?" As her words sank in, the crowd stilled, anticipation hanging in the air. Sarah felt the familiar knot tighten, but also a flicker of something else, possibility. Would they embrace the risks of sharing their deepest truths? And what would happen if they did? The answers felt just out of reach, but the moment was upon them. Tom's heart raced as the mother's voice broke through the air, resonating in a way that silenced every whisper and laugh around them. The weight of her words landed heavy, yet there was a vulnerability that invited others closer, pulling them into her story. "His name was Jake. He was everything to us. Our light, our laughter," she started, her voice trembling slightly but gathering strength as she spoke. As she shared the precious memories, the colors on the mural seemed to shimmer brighter, reflecting the life and love she had so openly poured into her words. Sarah glanced at Tom. She could see tears welling in his eyes, his emotions laid bare in that moment. This was what they had hoped for, a space where loss could be transformed into something beautiful together. But lingering beneath her admiration was that familiar gnawing sensation. The risk of unpreparedness still loomed. Like a storm waiting to brew, a gentle hand rested on Sarah's shoulder. It was the woman from earlier, the one who had been fraught with uncertainty. "I'm ready," she said, her voice steady now. "I want to share my story too." As she stepped forward, Sarah's heart swelled with compassion. The mural had become a living testament to collective grief and healing. But it was also revealing the shared human experience they often tried to hide. Stories were stepping out into the open, illuminating the shadows that had silently claimed so many. With each story shared, the crowd transformed. The parents, the friends, even the children gathered around, each person seeing pieces of their own hurt reflected in the narrative spoken. Faces once filled with uncertainty now shone with courage. The mural, once just a canvas, became an ever-growing tapestry, vivid memories of joy mingling with shared sorrow. Each stroke of paint a cathartic release. "It's beautiful," the journalist said, capturing the moment with the lens of his camera. But just as Sarah breathed in relief, the sense of vulnerability returned. This was their story for the world. And with that comes judgment, misunderstanding, potential backlash. "Are we truly ready for this?" Sarah whispered to Tom, her voice barely rising above the chatter of those around them. Tom nodded, squeezing her hand tightly. "We're just sharing our truth. If it can help one person, it's worth it." His steady conviction anchored her wavering heart. He was so hopeful, so grounded, but Sarah couldn't shake the worry. As revelations wove together, both in stories and in the colors on the wall, fear and anxiety rumbled beneath her surface. Would their lives be swept up in headlines and opinions? Would their hope become fodder for someone else's narrative, their pain merely a spectacle? The crowd's energy surged, laughter and sorrow dancing in harmony. It felt electric, yet she stood slightly apart, holding on to reservations. Suddenly, amidst the shared warmth and healing, a roar from across the street shattered the atmosphere. A group of skeptics had gathered, chanting slogans that cut through the connection like a knife. "Keep your pain to yourselves. We don't want to hear it." Their voices rose, casting a shadow over the mural as everyone turned stunned. Gasps rippled through the crowd and Sarah's heart plummeted. Going public meant facing this too. "Tom," she began, feeling the heat of panic. "What if the very thing we hoped for turns against us?" But before he could respond, their mural caught the sunlight, glistening defiantly against the dark clouds gathering. It reminded her of every story shared, every heart laid bare. And just then, Sarah felt the tug of a new realization. There was a strength in their shared grief that couldn't be silenced. Would they allow fear to encapsulate their journey? Or would they rise up as a community, fueled by their collective courage? As the voices of dissent grew louder, Sarah took a deep breath. She refused to let the darkness dim the light they were creating. "Come on, everyone," she heard herself shout. "Let us show them who we are." With the crowd rallying behind her, she faced the approaching storm, heart pounding but spirit ignited. Would this be the moment they truly transformed their pain into power? And could their unified voices drown out the dissent that threatened to unravel their hard-fought connection? As Sarah stepped forward to confront the tumult, she caught a glimpse of the mural, the deeper, stronger colors standing out against the chaos. It was more than just paint, it was an emblem of survival, resilience. Their stories were about to unfold, but how they would be received was a question still looming. Would they find their strength together? Or would the storm prove too heavy to bear? The crowd was restless, a tide of emotions stirring in the air. Sarah felt the heat of anticipation, her heart racing as the chants from the skeptics pierced through the moment they had built together. Each word felt personal, laced with anger and misunderstanding. It took everything in her to hold the space steady, reminding herself that this was bigger than their fears. Tom stood beside her, his expression resolute. "We can't let them drown us out," he urged, his voice rising above the cries. "We're not just a story to be judged. We're a community." Sarah's gaze swept across the gathering faces, parents, relatives, friends all standing shoulder to shoulder. There was fear in their eyes but also something else. A flicker of determination sparked as they listened to her call to action. Maybe this was their moment to break free from the chains of silence. "Together," Sarah shouted, the word echoing like a drumbeat. "We are not our pain but our hope. Our stories deserve to be heard." As she spoke, she felt the crowd lean into her words, their energy shifting from trepidation to defiance. The woman stepped up from the crowd, her eyes glistening. What they don't understand is that this is our healing. It's about letting others know they're not alone. Her voice rose with fervor, igniting something in others. Individuals began to share each story a vibrant thread in their shared tapestry. A father spoke of losing his child. A mother talked about the heartache of love lost. As they opened up, more joined, each voice enriching the mural before them. They painted their grief with words, layering it like the vibrant colors on the canvas, creating a masterpiece of resilience. Yet the chanting only grew louder, desperate to drown them out. One of the skeptics stepped forward, his face hardened with disdain. "You think this helps anyone? You're just making it worse." His disdain sliced through the heart of the moment, a sudden stab of doubt. Tom clenched Sarah's hand tighter, his knuckles going white. But instead of retreating, she felt a surge of courage. "This is not just for us," she shouted, her heart pounding fiercely. "It's for every person who feels lost. We're breaking the silence." The crowd erupted, a sea of voices rising in unison. "We will be heard," they chanted, their cries echoing through the streets like a wave crashing against the shore. The mural behind them gleamed brightly now, reflecting their hope and unity. It stood as a beacon, illuminating the darkness. But just as they were gaining momentum, a fissure of uncertainty ran through Sarah. She turned to Tom, his eyes searching hers for reassurance. "What if it doesn't change anything?" she asked, the fear creeping back, a ghost in the shadows. He leaned in closer. "It already has. Look at what we've created." His words filled her with a flicker of hope. She realized in that moment that even amidst the discord, they had built something new and powerful. Then, from the corner of her eye, Sarah noticed a child at the edge of the crowd. He clutched a crayon, eyes wide, as he stared at the mural with wonder. It sparked something in her. This wasn't just about their stories. It was about the future. The children who would grow up surrounded by understanding and love. As the chants grew louder from her side, something clicked within her. "Let us show them the beauty in our stories," Sarah decided, her voice once again carrying strength. "Can we create something they can't ignore?" They began to sing, their voices weaving together in a powerful anthem of hope and resilience. The song floated up into the sky, reverberating off the buildings, carrying their message beyond mere words. But in the back of Sarah's mind, the fear still lingered. Would their song be enough? What if the darkness came for them again? The tension escalated, and as the last chord rang out, the crowd held its breath, waiting for a response. Would their bravery echo back? Or would the storm they feared wash over them again? Just beyond the mural, a flicker of movement caught her eye, a figure stepping out from the shadows, curiosity etched on his face. Could he be someone who understood? Would he bring hope? Or another challenge to overcome? The figure stepped fully into view, his features gradually sharpening in the light. It was a boy, maybe 12 or 13, with messy hair and big, curious eyes. He stood there, a crayon clutched tightly in his fist, looking as if he just stumbled into a world filled with both beauty and chaos. Sarah's heart fluttered at the sight of him. Perhaps he felt the power of their stories, felt the weight of the mural behind them, something that seemed to echo the pain and hope of everyone gathered. Holding her breath, she took a tentative step toward him. "Hey there," she said gently. The boy seemed to consider her for a moment before he finally spoke. "Can I help draw?" His voice was soft but confident, filled with a bright innocence that lit up the somber atmosphere. He pointed at the mural, just waiting for someone to say yes. "Of course," Sarah replied, her own heart swelling. "It's for everyone. We want everyone to be a part of this." She knelt down so she could meet his gaze eye to eye. The chant from the crowd began to fade as people turned to witness this small exchange. The boy stepped closer, his small hands trembling with excitement as he lowered the crayon to the mural's surface. It was a simple line at first, but as he drew it became something vibrant, alive. Others touched his shoulder, encouraging him and sharing the moment. It was as if his innocence pulled forth the best in everyone as the boy colored. Sarah felt a sense of clarity wash over her. They weren't just fighting against the darkness they feared. They were building a light. The boy's drawing, a symbol of hope and new beginnings, began to weave together the stories already told, blending sorrow with joy and loss with love. Tom grinned beside her, the worry he carried slowly melting away. Who would have thought a crayon could rally us like this? He chuckled, squeezing her hand again, grounding her amidst the chaos, but that doubt, that nagging worry was still there, whispering in her ear. What if the moment was fleeting? What if the people chanting against them remained too loud to hear their message? As Sarah glanced at the crowd, her heart raced again, uncertainty knotting in her stomach. Yet the boy continued to draw, his lines extending outward as if inviting others to join him in the act of creation. Slowly, one by one, more children emerged from the edges of the gathering, driven by curiosity, arms filled with crayons and chalks. "Let us all add our colors," one shouted, a girl with messy pigtails and a splash of paint on her cheek. And with that, the crowd roared back to life. Families, friends, and strangers grabbed crayons, sharing their colors and stories with one another. They weren't just standing there facing the skeptics, they were reclaiming the narrative, turning it into a collective masterpiece powered by every heartbeat and every tear as laughter erupted and voices filled the air. Sarah caught a glimpse of the skeptic still lurking at the fringe. He watched, arms crossed, skepticism still written across his face. And in that moment, she couldn't let him be the anchor weighing them down. "Let us invite him in," Sarah shouted, pointing towards the man. The crowd paused, and for a moment, silence hung in the tension-filled air. Everyone followed her gaze, their breaths mingling together in curiosity and hope. Could they really invite him into their space? Extend forgiveness despite his harsh words? And then, before she could second-guess herself, could even process the weight of that decision, the boy with the crayon turned, a wide smile pulling at his lips. "Come on. Everyone can draw." Sarah held her breath, waiting to see if the gesture would be met with resistance or acceptance. The crowd leaned forward, faces flickering with anticipation, eyes bright with the possibility of change. What would happen next? Would the skeptic step forward? Or would fear keep him frozen? The skeptic hesitated, his arms still crossed, the weight of uncertainty heavy on his shoulders. But something in the boy's unforced joy, a purity that couldn't be denied, seemed to chip away at his guarded expression. Slowly, inch by inch, the boy's enthusiasm seemed to draw him in. "Come on. We want you to color with us," the boy repeated, his excitement infectious. The skeptic's brow furrowed as he weighed his options, the murmurs of the crowd acting as a distant heartbeat echoing their shared hopes. And then, without breaking eye contact with the boy, he uncrossed his arms. One tentative step became two, and before anyone could assess what was happening, he walked closer to the mural. The air felt electric, charged with anticipation. I don't know how to draw," he admitted, his voice just above a whisper. "That's okay," another child piped up, her face beaming like the sun. "Just make something special, like what you feel inside." Sarah couldn't help but smile, warmth flooding through her. Here, amidst the paint and laughter, barriers were being broken down. There was something magical in this moment. They were rewriting the narrative, transforming fear into connection. The man picked up a crayon, hesitating just momentarily. He glanced at the mural, a riot of colors merging to express every story shared, every tear shed. Finally, he lowered it to the canvas, and a hesitant line emerged. "See? There!" the boy cheered. "You did it." And just like that, the moment painted a vibrant defiance against negativity. As the crowd erupted in cheers, more hands joined in, crayons flying, colors splashing against the wall in a kaleidoscope of emotions. Sarah felt tears prick at her eyes, a mixture of disbelief and joy crashing over her as they painted their lives together, strangers bonding over shared sorrow, joys, and experiences. "What's most amazing," Tom said beside her, his voice filled with awe as he watched the mural come to life, "is we're building a community today, brick by brick, story by story." Sarah nodded, her heart beating in time with the growing crowd. They were not just facing the storm. They were embracing it. They were creating evidence of resilience, turning pain into power as laughter filled the air as the mural grew. So too did the gathering of onlookers. People who had once whispered doubts were now watching in wonder, their skepticism crumbling under the weight of such vibrant displays of humanity. In the back of her mind, Sarah still held on to a glimmer of fear. What would happen tomorrow? But in that moment, as the sun dipped low in the sky casting illuminated shadows, she realized that answers wouldn't come from worrying about the future, but from living in the present. Then came the loudest cheer yet as the boy added a sun, its rays bursting outward like their dreams, giving warmth and light to everyone present. "For hope," he declared, proud of his addition. "For hope." The crowd echoed, their collective spirits rising high to meet the moment. The energy was undeniable, and she could sense the change sweeping through them like a summer breeze. The journalist returned, snapping photos with fervor, capturing the powerful messages unraveling on the mural walls. "This is incredible," he shouted over the noise, his eyes dancing with excitement. "You all have created something so special here." Each story shared, each stroke on that mural was a mark of defiance against despair, a testament not just for themselves, but for children and families everywhere who felt lost. As the final colors dried, Sarah felt the heaviness of fear dissipating. They had become a community not through silence, but through raw connection and shared understanding. "Look at what we've built together," Tom spoke softly, his eyes gleaming with pride. "Every color tells a story, we've given ourselves a voice." It was true. The mural was a spellbinding expression of their journey. Every twist and turn was now alive, pulsating with life and possibility. And so, as the sun set with a brilliant flush, Sarah understood. Their stories mattered, and they were just beginning to write the next chapter together. The noise of descent faded into the background, overshadowed by hope, light, and community. "Let us keep this going," she shouted, her voice ringing out steadily. "We won't stop here. Let us gather. Let us share. Let us heal together." The crowd erupted once more in a cheer, a promise forged in unity and love as darkness settled around them, but their hearts remained illuminated by the colors of hope. As they embraced the lasting bond formed that day, Sarah felt something shift deeply inside her. Fear hadn't vanished, but it had transformed into fearless resolve. The future would come with challenges. There would still be mountains to climb, but together they would continue to rise, reclaiming every piece of light they could forge. Together they could create a haven for every lost heart in Cedar Springs, a space that whispered to all, "You are seen. You are not alone." For Sarah, the journey was far from over. They had discovered strength in their vulnerability, gained courage to rise beyond the shadows, and above all, they had learned to paint their own extraordinary story of hope. And just like that, she felt ready for whatever lay ahead. Now this is where you come in. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. Your support can help spread hope and change lives. Let us do this together.